if you were to look at your story as, like, say, from a bird's eye point of view, say you are writing your own travelogue of your life, like Jasmine, as you know, like what would you would remember the good parts? How would you define yourself? Trick question, I know.
This is a trick question.
Yeah, it's okay. You can skip it. You can skip. I never asked. Even
No.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say, all in all, like when it boils down to it, I'm a person who is a creative at heart, a service-minded person, um, in my soul and in my mind, um, and in my heart, and um, I would just say a lover. Those would probably be the three ways that I would describe myself. Like, I love serving and being able to help people. I feel like that's one of my greatest purposes here, is to just be of service to others in the ways that I can. I feel as if I am made to create and be creative throughout my life, even if that's not my day to day, but that is something that I always include in my life. And I think that I am a person who is meant to love and be loved and to receive love in all of its forms, and in whatever ways the love the love comes to me. Um, so in a nutshell, I would say those three things.
So I feel, since we're on this planet briefly, we are here on, I feel like we're on a trip, we are traveling. And because we are traveling, it's like when we're traveling, we're just looking at what the best a place has to offer. We are taking in the experiences, we are exploring nature and allowing the journey to inspire the creator in us in whatever creative form of expression that, calls out to us. What is our chosen dominant creative form of expression? So the Being an Earthling podcast basically makes space for such stories, or what I would like to call travelogues of us, us Earthlings, while we are here and we're traveling on Earth briefly, and we're allowing the journey to inspire the creativity. And I feel like when we put out stories, when we talk about stories of other creators, other fellow Earthlings, and and their travelogues, I feel like it could provide us, answers to our own questions, some kind of assurance, and also, like, give us some kind of a map of what we're getting into. Hi everybody, this is Avilasha, also known as Storyteller Earthling, and I have with me today, Jasmine.
Always excited to be on and to speak with you. Jasmine. I go by Janae. My page is quoted by Janae, and that's my middle name. So I just decided to start using it for writing. Um, let's see. It's always hard to talk about myself and like give information. I don't know why, but I live in Georgia. I live in Atlanta. I've been here since 2012. I'm originally from Las Vegas. I'm a Pisces, if that matter. I started writing poetry in 2020. I've kind of always written poetry off and on, but got more serious about it in 2020. The pandemic hit, and I was just going through so much emotionally, as was the world. Just graduating and thinking I'm going to graduate and get a job, and that didn't quite pan out. And so trying to figure out my life after that. And I just started writing to kind of express myself and to use as kind of a coping mechanism, as I was feeling all of these things. And so from that, I kind of took a leap and started the Instagram page. I got the idea from my best friend who started her writing Instagram page. And I was like, okay, I'll do that too. I love to write. And just from there, things took off, and I met so many people like you, and just other amazing folks. And just, yeah, it's been quite the journey, a really great journey. For me, being a Black woman, seeing a Black woman represented in that role, a role that obviously the Little Mermaid was white all my life growing up. So now to see like a Black woman in that role and that representation and just her killing it, like, it makes me very proud, of her, of just like the time that we're in and how we're moving forward, even if it's slowly, like we're moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's an important point about representation, because all of us, I think we grew up, living at a very certain type of people portrayed on
Right.
screen. All characters look the same, and half, like 90% of the world does not look like that, like
Yeah.
and like you said, and it's great that like currently we're like we have diverse representation. Like I know that I might sound political, but what happens is, like, I have a lot of, like, we are all, like, you are somebody, a woman of color, I'm a woman of color, and we are already doing, like, we're creative and we're putting ourselves out there. And then I have seen some people, come up with, like, as if we need special treatment, like, oh, hey, you know what? It's so nice to see, people like you come out. Like, I have received this. Yeah, people like you,
Yeah.
do so much and come out and you speak good English. Like, as if, are, like, because people are so used to seeing, like, okay, only a certain kind of not to sound
Right.
racist, but it's like only a certain kind of people are expected to behave like that. And when we
Mhm.
do something, differently, like, I also have seen a lot of opposing views about the lead for, Little Mermaid. People are like,
Yeah.
I have grown up watching her with red hair, and like certain
Hmm.
physical characteristics. And but to see somebody else, and I think with what was that Netflix series? I forgot about it. Anyway, so there was this lady Catherine, I think, who was also a black lady, is portrayed this Queen of England, I think. Not very sure. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, so like, people are like, it doesn't, but I feel like, not, I think it's high time, we have a diversity when it comes, because reality is diverse, and we have a lot of people, women of
Hmm.
color, people of color, doing so much already. And it's not something out of the ordinary, we already are. And because we
Yeah.
don't get the limelight, I feel like when somebody gets the limelight, other people get very surprised, like, oh, hey, you know what?
Hmm.
You go, where did you learn? I'm like, okay, this is normal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree so much with what you're saying. It's kind of like whenever we do something exceptional, we're the exception, and it's like we're not expected to be
yeah,
exceptional, but it's like there are exceptional people everywhere. It doesn't matter, your race, your gender, your religion, all of those things. Like, that doesn't stop people from being exceptional. And so I think it's high time we start to change that kind of narrative from, oh, you're exceptional for a woman of color or whatever, or, for a woman, or, kind of whatever gets thrown into there. But we need to just start seeing it as, you know, there are all kinds of exceptional people, and you're exceptional, and I'm exceptional, and, so many people in the world are exceptional.
yeah. I think the term women of color itself is like, we don't need that term. Let's just be like, we all
Yeah.
people, we're earthlings. And I felt like
Yeah.
the being an earthling was basically, I was like fed up of all these stereotypes. I didn't put my face out there initially, because it's like, when you're looking at me, I'm all this gender, race, where I'm from,
Hmm.
age, all these things come first, and then the art comes
Yeah.
later. I felt like I
Yeah.
wanted the writing is what I wanted people to know me as first, and then I can come later as a person. And the being an earthling thing was born out of all these. And I felt like talking to you. I think we raised a very important point in this podcast. Also, like, because we spoke about these things, like, or, do you put this out there when you write, like, these things, like, race, and not just race, like what you face as a person, or whatever defines you. Do you feel like it trickles you its way into the writing that you do, the lyrics, the poetry?
Absolutely. I feel like I wrote a lot more in my last book that I did, Composition, Seeking, Floating, Sailing. I did talk a lot in the first section about race. I know it starts off with a poem like being Black in America. And so I did talk a lot about that. And I think that was at the top of my mind because so much started happening in 2020 around race and just police violence and so many things like that I did talk a lot about that in my last book. This time, I talked less kind of about race. Talked a lot more about I think a mental health focus, and kind of like relationships and just like life things. But I do have in my lyrics section. the song Rain and Clouds. I think that's what I titled it. And it just kind of talks about, I wrote it so long ago, but it talks about kind of injustice and talks about like Breonna Taylor and Tony McDade and people who we've seen, have lost their lives to brutality or violence and just kind of all these things. And I know I have another poem related to COVID that also kind of talks about racial violence and injustice. So um, I definitely would say that it works its way into my work. I feel like, you know, I would be missing a crucial part of myself if I didn't talk about some of these things. But I think it just kind of happens organically with whatever's going on at the time. Like if I see or read something specific, and I'll just like need to get those feelings out and discuss them, and so I'll go and put them in my writing.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like you're this person who's really multifaceted as a creator. Like you just don't stick to one
Thank
thing,
you.
but then I feel like it connects, like all of these things connect. Like so I just wanted to know, how do you like what draws you to these different means of expression, like, and what is your, what would you prefer more, what you're most comfortable in, which form of expression, and why, like what draw like pulls you towards all these different directions. Like you're very energetic, like you're doing so much every day, you're like you have something new. Like what inspires you to keep doing all these things?
That's sweet. Thank you. Well, I think I've just always been a very creative person. I notice that I'm always my happiest when I'm creating or doing something that's, allows me to be more expressive. And I feel like when I was little, as a kid, that all started with kind of music, writing songs and um, playing guitar and singing and expressing myself in that way. Now later in life, it's kind of, I still like do that, but now I'm like writing more. And I think that's kind of what I'm more pulled towards now. And, recently doing ballet and just being in plays and productions that I always kind of find my way to doing something creative. And I think that I've learned that that's something that's key to include in my life, um, because that's kind of the thing that pushes me through. Some of the other experiences that are happening or things that, may not be driving me as much or fueling me as much. Um, so that's just kind of something that I've learned and noticed. But yeah, I think just being able to express myself in a creative way has always been ideal for me and has always worked.
When you wake up in the morning, like I feel like we talked about success in our previous podcast, and what your definition was really beautiful. I still remember it. And I also said that, success is about, waking up in the morning and feeling joyful beyond all the numbers and figures. So when you wake up in the morning, and what may motivates you to go about your day, like, okay, I'm glad that I'm alive and I'm doing this. What is that thing that really, makes you feel that way?
I love your definition of success and just waking up and being joyful because I don't know that people kind of just always do that. Sometimes people wake up on, as the expression goes, on the wrong side of the bed. So I think waking up and being joyful is like the minimum of like starting your day off successfully. So I love that. Um, I would say kind of what gets me, the question is what gets me up in the morning, right?
Yeah, like when you
Um,
wake up and you're like, I am grateful that today I get to do this, because
mm,
sometimes, when we're not in the right path, we feel like, another day, but
yeah.
I feel like when we're choosing some creative, when we have something creative to do, like something that we love doing, that thing, okay, I get to do this again today. Is there something that pulls you out of bed like that?
Every day I try to make time for writing, and I don't always like what I write, but at least it's a way to kind of get things out of my head or out of my system or to try to express myself. So
Yeah.
just any day that I get to be creative or any day that I know that like I have something different plan or fun plan, like whether I'm going to spend time with family or friends or just doing something spontaneous or new or doing something by myself, whatever the case may be, an
Yeah.
opportunity to do something different and kind of have a change of pace, a change of scenery. That also helps to get me out of the bed.
Yeah. No, like for instance, what happened is, I don't usually wake up this early. Like I kind of take it slow. So it's at 7:30 in the morning right now. And I
Oh my
woke up.
goodness.
No, that's good. I actually woke up because I was like, I have this podcast that I want to like do with you. So I felt like it pulled me out of bed today. So I thought I'll ask you this question at the same, but it's night for you. And thank you for staying up
Yeah.
and doing this. It's also like
Oh,
a
thank you
yeah.
for getting up early. I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
I'm ending my day with you and you're starting your day with me, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So I was talking about success, and the what I was saying earlier when you said wake up in the morning happy is actually a definition by Gary Vee, who is also an entrepreneur. Yeah, yeah. He mentioned it first. So when he said it, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I also, felt like. I just wanted to know, like for instance, and you have been somebody who's always like projecting a very creative, positive vibe. Like you're doing so many things. I love that you do a lot of multiple things, which is why I was thinking like what pulls you, I know I'm repeating my question, but I wanted to like your answer earlier was not you said something which is very important, but not this particular thing. Like what pulls you to different directions? Okay, because you're doing so much and it's very nice, it's very inspiring also that you have that multifacetedness in your and then like you keep doing something new, like you're always like you're very entrepreneurial in your own in a way. And what is that thing, like what keeps you like, "Okay, I should do this"? Is it something that you feel from inside? Are you inspired from inside? Okay, maybe I should do this. Is it like you're in a flow when you do that?
Oh man, thank you. I think I've always just been kind of a busybody. Like I don't like sitting still. So I think that's
Yeah,
part of the drive there. Like I love to sign up for stuff. Like I love to just try new things. And I think I've always been that way. And so I do kind of feel pulled to some things. Other things it's like, I should do this or this seems cool or interesting or new or like, I'll learn something new. And other things it's just like I feel really called to do
yeah,
it. Um, And so with creative things, it's always like, well, I'm gonna cast my net and just see what happens. Like last year, I was in a play here, and I'm just like, I'm gonna audition, and I'm gonna just, see what happens. Um, and ended up being one of the best experiences I've had to date. And I just think that it was kind of meant to be in a sense. I believe like that everything kind of happens for a reason, and I'm on the path that I'm on for a reason. And sometimes that's hard to see, but things always work out, I would
yeah,
say. So I just kind of will cast my net for certain things. And I'm like, well, we'll see. If it happens, it was meant to be. And if not, then it wasn't. And we try something different. But yeah, I think I just like being busy. I think I just like trying new and different things and just having different experiences. Because, if you take the chance to have different experiences, you can only grow and learn and just figure out the things that you like and the things that you don't. And you can say, well, I tried that and I didn't like it, or I tried that and I loved it. And then, you just learn something new about yourself too.
yeah. I love that expression. You're casting your net, and then you're trying out different experiences. That's actually very like it's good because sometimes you kind of like it happens that suppose what I'm just giving you an example, like for example if I'm a writer, and I have to do something like build a brand, the first thing that comes to your mind is I'm not an entrepreneur, I don't have an MBA, how am I going to do that? But
Mhm.
like when you're casting your net, we try out different things and we never know, how
Yeah,
life might surprise us. And also like
absolutely.
yeah, and we kind of do you also feel that like I feel like I don't think you do because I feel like you somebody when you said casting your net you're somebody up for new stuff, because most of the times most people it's like I don't think I should do this. What if I fail? Do you like does failure scare you, or how do you deal with failure? Yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
Failure is such a scary thing because uh, I think we kind of put a lot of our worth on whether or not we fail
True.
at something. But I'm starting to see and even like hear people say that, failure is not your whole worth or it doesn't mean that you've really failed. It's kind of just a chance to um, kind of learn, uh, redirect, try again, and um, figure all those things out. It's kind of just like a part of the journey.
Yeah.
Um, and so when I fail at something, if it's something that I really want, I'm like, okay, well, let me figure out what I did wrong, and I'll try again, or I'll get better. I'll figure out, why I failed at something. It's like baking a cake or something. Maybe the first time you bake the cake, it's a little flat, and you're like, okay, well, I either added too much of something or not enough, and you just kind of figure it out and try to perfect the recipe, right? So I think of failure in that same way, that it's really like, okay, maybe I, didn't do something right, or I did a little bit too much of something. And so this is my chance to kind of reflect, redirect, and figure it out. And, sometimes when I fail at things, I'm like, well, I didn't really enjoy this all that much anyway, or like whatever. So it's like, I tried, I failed, I learned, I had this experience, and so I'm moving on to like the next thing. So it really just depends on kind of what you want and what you make of it and what you get out of it. But I really see it as an opportunity to just grow and learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just, oh, I failed, and like my whole, self was based on me succeeding at this thing. So that's kind of the way I like to look at it. But yes, it can be very scary for
Yeah.
sure.
Like you talked about self-worth, and I think it's an important point. Like raised, you said, we put a lot of self-worth on if we fail or not. But in truth, it's just not even close to how we are worthy regardless. I feel like we are worthy because we are human and you're an earthling, we're here on this planet. I think that itself is enough,
Yeah.
to feel like we're worthy. And we will fail if, it's part, like you said, part of the process. So who, like, because we're talking about success and role model, failure and all that. So who are the people you look up to? Like, who are your role models? And if there's anything that you learn from them that you like to share.
Um, I always like to say that the three people in my family kind of closest to me, my grandmother, my father, my mother, all inspire me in different ways. My mother deals with mental illness, but I see her like overcome that a lot, or deal with that face on. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, that it's really hard to deal with mental illness because it's not like a physical thing that you kind of prescribe. I mean, you can prescribe medicine for mental illness, but
It's a life.
kind of with,
Yeah.
if you have a sprained ankle, you do these kind of things and it'll get better over time. Whereas mental health, I feel like, is a little bit more of kind of, you're taking it day by day, and some days you'll have good days and some days you'll have bad days. And it's like really kind of like this man versus self battle. So I see her deal with that a lot and like overcome it in a lot of ways. And that's always inspiring on harder days. My grandmother is just someone who, um, is just very strong. Like, she doesn't let things completely knock her down. She may feel like the weight of them for a moment, but then she gets up and figures out how to deal with them. And that's always been inspiring to me. And then my dad just has like a really great personality, where he's kind of similar to my grandmother. That's his mother. He doesn't let stuff kind of bother him for long. He's kind of like this happy-go-lucky guy. Um, so they kind of all inspire me in different ways, and there are so many other people who inspire me. I have friends around me. I love to surround myself with people who are go-getters and who are doing things and who are passionate about things. I love passionate people. So a lot of my friends, um, they're bigger people, like famous people or more known people who inspire me. So the world inspires me, nature inspires me. I mean, just so many things inspire me
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah, and I love what you said about having a circle of people around you, especially friends, who are go-getters, right? So important to
Yeah,
surround ourselves with the right people. Otherwise, it could
absolutely.
go wrong in so many ways, It's true. And not just people who are talented, but also people who have a, like passionate, very important to have passionate people, not just talented, is what I have realized. Yeah, because negative self-talk or negative talk, in fact, among people, it's like, I want to do this, but you know what, this is the only way to do this. Like, I personally feel like a lot of people have this closed minded, okay, this is the only way to do this, this is the I
Yeah.
feel like what I look for in people is open-mindedness, like, hey, let's explore, like you said, put casting the net kind of a thing. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, love what you said about also, like, you raise a very important point about mental health, right? And we don't, like you said, it's such a, like, it's not something you have to live with it. It's not like you get a physical cure for it, and it goes away, and it does teach us a lot. It's an important point.
Yeah.
And, like, I know we're getting like heavy on the conversation, but to make it light, who are like your favorite artists, or musicians, or famous people, or somebody like who inspires you?
Well, I have two people who are go-tos. So I really am a big fan of Dana Delaney.
Yeah.
She's an actress, and I'm in that fandom, so I've met a lot of friends and just wonderful people through that. So I'm appreciative of that common interest in her, kind of bringing people together. I think that she's kind of this strong person who she kind of isn't afraid to kind of say what she feels, to use her platform for good, and to speak out against certain things or for certain things she believes in. Um, I just think she's kind of just unapologetically herself, and I just love that about her and admire that about her. And another person that I always go to is Caravaggio. Now he lived a life kind of sacred and profane, as I've read, but his art is very real and raw. He's an artist, and I fell in love with his art for whatever reason. I was touched by it. I kind of was drawn to it, and I think it's just the rawness, the realness, the drama, the colors, the use of tenebrism, the technique that he uses in his pictures, which definitely adds to the drama. I just think that he created a lot of beautiful work and kind of spoke directly to what he was going through in life. And the book is about, it's called To Feel the Darkness but Choose the Light. And it's really about my last couple of years of experiences of dealing with various emotions. So there's like mental health, it's just kind of some overarching life poems, like just everyday things that kind of happen. There's a love element, and I even included some lyrics from my songs. So there's a lot going on in it, but it's definitely very a lot of emotions, and kind of ends on a light note of me, pun intended, of me kind of choosing the light and choosing some of the brighter spots in life, even through all of those emotions and experiences.
Yeah, yeah, I think that sounds very like hopeful. Like choosing the light. I love that, and I think
Yeah.
you also released your cover recently. Really like the how you have presented it. It
Thank
just like
you.
it feels like hope. Even your cover and your title. I feel like I hope people who read it get value out of it. The hope that you're projecting.
But one of the poems I wrote is called Selfish. And I just felt after I wasn't really angry in writing it because it is called Selfish. And so kind of like has more negative vibes, but I wasn't even angry in writing it. But afterward, I felt like kind of this weight, and I felt like this power. Um, and I just knew I was like, this has to go in the book. Like, I just felt this one so much. So it's one of my go-tos and one of my favorites. So I'll share that one. Um, so yeah, it's called Selfish, and it goes like this: People will come into your life, make a mess of it, tell you that you'll find someone better, and then leave. And while you know it's true that you will find someone better, you feel absolute rage at how selfish they were for coming into your perfectly calm life and upsetting the balance. You're upset at how they took into consideration only their own wants and needs, and never the fact that their actions could very well tear into your human flesh and heart so deeply. You are so shocked at the way your feelings never crossed their mind before they took a deep dive into your water and drained you before moving on to new seas. It becomes clear to you that you never meant more than a passing thought to them. Yet, for them, you carry the world in your hands. People will strip you down to nothing just to see you at your barest, and then decide that isn't enough. They want your flesh and bones too. They want to have the parts of you that no one else got and ruin them so no one else has a chance to enjoy them. And when they see that you aren't all put together and that there are parts of you that are a mess, they'll leave you in a heap on the floor and run for the nearest exit.
Yeah, that is so true. Sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah.
unfortunately, people are just interesting.
Yeah, and but I also feel like I don't really feel like that people say that people come into life for certain lessons, but I do feel like I don't agree with that completely. But I do feel like when so people like this come into our life, it actually makes us better because we get the opportunity to strengthen our qualities. Like we don't do it to other
Yeah.
people, and we become stronger enough not to let such people again. Yeah.
Yeah, you learn kind of these are the red flags. This person did
Yeah.
these things. So let me not go down that same path of finding a person who does these same things.
True. And like I feel like it happens with finding the right people. I'm not assuming it's a romantic person, but I'm just saying like when it comes to say relationships, it just so like our generation is such that it's not like it's so difficult to find that kind of balance sometimes because people are so
Yeah.
like yeah and okay and when I see other people they're like, hey, you know what, I found the perfect person. I just sometimes feel like how do you even do it? Because I
How do
haven't
you do it? Give
experienced.
me the secret.
Yeah.
I
Right.
feel that.
Exactly, and modern day problems.
Yeah. Well, I think in romance and even finding myself in a romance now that it is kind of it's hard sometimes being in a relationship because you are kind of figuring out the person, you're learning yourself, you're dealing
Yeah.
with maybe some of the things that you know have that come to the surface for you in that, maybe some things that have impacted you over time and you're like unpacking things. It's a lot that happens in a relationship,
Exactly,
but
exactly.
yeah. I think
And
you just work through and you're patient with one another and you're
yeah,
uh working on yourself and then working the unit to make it
true.
go.
It's work, and sometimes people are not ready to work do the work as well. But that's a different story. I think
Yeah.
that's to find the right person who's ready to do the work. Otherwise,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And so like you have published 2 books. Yeah. So like, what's the publishing process like?
And doing the independent publishing thing can be really difficult. And I think
Yeah.
even more so this time around because I'm doing my best to do everything professionally. So like getting a formatter, getting an editor, you know, getting a nice looking cover, which my last book had a great cover too, but making sure the cover looks good and is appealing, making sure the interior looks right, making sure that there are no mistakes as far as like the content and the punctuation and the words. um marketing has been a big thing that I've been learning throughout this process, and that's been probably one of the hardest because that's not something that I've historically done or that I'm used to, and so I'm learning a lot about the marketing process, and getting my work out to people and getting my name out, and um,
Yeah.
of doing things mostly as a one-man show, but like also calling in other people like, does this look good? Does this look professional? Is this okay? Are there any um, you know, things that need to be edited or reworded and all of that. So it's definitely been a process. I feel like I
Yeah.
just talked a whole lot, but that's like how the process has been.
That
It's been a
that's
whole lot, so I have to say,
that is true. It is a whole lot, and in my own books, I relate to what you're saying because it makes you an entrepreneur. I feel like writing a book.
yeah.
I always say writing a book is actually the easiest part, and the rest of it is like
Writing the book is the easiest part.
yeah, like you are doing a lot. Like that's really good. Like we see the
Okay.
passion. Yeah. And like, do you feel like because I mean, social media, for instance, when you talk about self marketing, it's a process. Like, it is not very easy to self market, especially with so many so much of I wouldn't say competition, but so much like you find the right audience through the algorithm and all. And although social media is great, but it's also very challenging, like to
Yeah.
reach out and connect and find the right people, likes and views and all these numbers
Yeah.
getting. So how do you like keep yourself motivated when because you're never satisfied. That's I understand when you're putting yourself out there on social, it's
Yeah.
always going to be something more that we could be doing, right? So like, well,
Yeah.
how do you keep yourself motivated? It's fine, but you keep creating in spite of all that.
hmm Sometimes it can be hard. Like I said, marketing is very new to me. Like a lot of times I'll just post stuff and I'm like, hopefully, hopefully somebody will see it. Hopefully somebody will like it. Um, but I would just say like coming on every day, I try to post stuff and be consistent. I try to kind of repost things or comment on other people's things and interact with other people because I think that's important in building relationships that you're reciprocating what other people are giving you. Um, and not even necessarily, to get something in return, but like just to be building those relationships. It's really hard, but I think the best thing about this journey has been meeting people, and I met a lot of people on Instagram in the poetry community.
Yeah,
So that kind of drives me knowing that, hey, you could meet somebody new, or you could make a new friend, or like, somebody may be touched by what you're posting.
true.
Um, and so I just try to continue to stay consistent and interact as much as possible.
Yeah, I think that's the real value. I also feel the same. It's like beyond all there's so much. There are a lot of marketing people also on Instagram always telling us that, do
Yeah.
this, do this. But I honestly felt like it's a very subjective path again. Yeah, meeting people, building networks, doing collaborations. I feel like one good thing about, like, I asked you the question mainly because, I have so many people, poets, especially authors, writers, we all are like, I am not a marketer, and but we have to still put ourselves out there, and we have to deal with all this. Like, there are accounts on Insta which are like really big companies, and they pay so much money, and they have a huge staff, and they do so much work, and they,
Right.
yeah, and we have to compete with, not exactly compete, we are put in the same space as them, right? Like, we have an independent magazine, and there's a huge as, big media company that you're also there.
Right.
And how do you still follow your dreams in spite of all these things? That was
Right.
mainly, yeah. And I felt like the best thing we took from this is the networks and the value that we, meet because of the people we meet, right? So important. Yeah,
It's so
yeah,
hard, especially being independently published. Like you said, we don't really have the people. We're doing it all ourselves, so we don't have anybody on our marketing team like pushing all this out, and it makes it really hard. But yeah, we just keep pushing and going. I've learned a lot from. I don't know if you know Shelby Lee, but she's kind of in the
no,
poetry community.
okay,
Okay, well, I've learned a lot of like marketing tips and just kind of other tips from her, and it's been really helpful.
yeah,
As well as others. So I've just kind of been trying, like I said, casting my net and just seeing what I pull.
yeah, yeah. You're right. And even in my case, it's always like so much I have to do, but I don't have a lot of the time to do it. But then I feel like it's okay, I should do this, I should do that. It's always going to be, I think, when you're doing it on your own, it's always going to be something more that you want to do. And
Yeah,
which is why, yeah, I felt like, the earthlings, that being an earthling is what I'm building. So that we can, like, for example, I feel like when we're doing a podcast or we're doing a collaboration, it's like we helping each other, we are marketing each other as well, we're marketing ourselves, and we're doing it together, like we get like more people involved. And I feel like if we can build a community space where we can, I'm not talking about people who already have the resources, or I'm a people per se, but businesses, but more like people, independent people, who still have dreams and aspirations. And if you can
right.
come collectively, I feel like we have a better chance of more, and I think more we have, it's more like an extra help which we get, in terms of that. And it has come together on its own. Like, I met you and I felt like we could have a discussion, then I had other people, I felt like we could talk. So I felt like this brings people together as well, and it's a very,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
yeah. Right. And like, yeah, so I was asking you, is that now what are you, going forward? What are your plans for the future? Like, I'm not saying you have to give me a 5-year plan or anything, but more like, do you have anything, new that you want to try out, and any projects that are coming? Like, you want to try something new, do it to the different direction, or what else you have in mind?
Yeah, well, of course, I'm excited for this book and ready for that to come out and the whole kind of process that comes with that as the year goes on. Other things I'm looking to get into. Um, Ooh, that's a great question. I would love to do more things as a writer. So like retreats, workshops, just things where I can kind of meet more writers and put myself out there as a writer, doing more spoken word things. Uh, I would love to get into something new personally. Like I've kind of completed my ballet journey, and now I'm like, what's my next creative endeavor outside of writing? What's the
Yeah.
next thing that I kind of want to get involved in creatively and um, try, trying different and new things. Um, and really just making time for people, meeting new friends, traveling, having new experiences and new journeys. I always get very inspired when I go to a new place or just, change my scenery or
Yeah.
just hang out with someone new or in a different environment. All of that can really kind of make a difference for my creativity and just for my mood.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. I feel like that inspires us more as a writer, makes us better, in our craft. And the being an earthling, I keep mentioning that being an earthling basically is that only. It's like I used to travel solo. Like I mentioned solo because traveling with other people, you have to adjust. You have somewhere on the line there is not just your call. But when you're traveling solo, you're
Yeah.
completely on your own, and your safety, everything. You have to be like take responsibility. So what I felt, worked was like when I was there, I was traveling. I didn't really plan out the entire trip. I allowed the journey to inspire me. So, for example, I went to the mountains and I met a lot of other people, solo travelers as well. I made friends with them. All these things happen. I felt like when I allowed the journey to take its shape, I had the best time. I didn't really plan on meeting these people or have an impromptu with, hey, let's go there. Let's go on a hike or something. And it has always, you know, interestingly, nothing bad has ever happened. It's always been good people, and that really surprises me. The extent at which universe works when you're really allowing the inspiration from within to inspire us. It's like the same thing I applied when I was doing my writer journey as well, writing my book, doing this podcast, for instance. I'm just like for example, I don't plan it so much, like you said. Just be in the state of flow, whatever makes you flow. Like I felt
Yeah.
like, yeah, if I felt like not really calculating so much, but like you said, new things. Uh, Being on camera really freaked me out earlier. A year ago, I was not comfortable doing this, but now it feels like since I took a step, I'm like, I think it's actually helping. And like you said, it makes you feel good. Like you try out something new, and then it makes you feel good. So sometimes I don't plan it. I never thought I'd do a podcast in my life because I thought it was like extra work and other people. Not my genre. I'm more of a writer. But doing this today with you, I feel like I think it's something I enjoy doing. And going forward, I feel like when you said workshops, I think you have very good camera presence. Just something I felt.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yes, it's true. And if you make reels or you do workshops or something like that, I think you have that quality. Like just give it a shot. Like you might,
That's
yeah.
really sweet. I appreciate that encouragement. So I'll definitely give
But
that a
it's
go.
true.
Thank you. And I will
Yeah.
say that
Yeah.
um, I love that you just taken these journeys in life and experiences. I've not done a whole lot of solo travel, just one so far, though I would love to do more. And I just feel inspired by your story and just kind of how you just went with the flow and found the beauty in life. And I'm also glad that you stepped out of your comfort zone and decided to be on camera and do podcasts because we wouldn't have these experiences otherwise. And
True.
I just think that you're doing an amazing job with what you're doing. So, had you not taken that leap, we wouldn't be here. So I think that that's also beautiful. And I commend you on,
Thank you.
following that.
Thank you. I think it's co-creating. You chose to be here. I chose to do this, right? And that's being an earthling. So what I was saying is that being an earthling basically is just being now in the moment and allowing where we are to inspire us
Mhm.
and be in the mode where we're inspired from within to do something. You know, allow the journey to unfold and be in that flow state. And interestingly, I was a guest in a podcast recently with this person who has this who is more of a life and a business coach. And while we were talking, we realized that ultimately it's the flow that we seek that wholeness, and that actually gave more shape to even the being an earthling concept. Like, hey, ultimately it is about flow. And yeah, I recommend following her on Instagram, quoted by Jane, because she has a very creative, very uplifting vibe. And not just poetry, she posts a lot of other scenes as well. And if you are not just into a poetry, I think apart from that, she's full of other ideas as well. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And thanks just for having this and having your page and really bringing us back to being earthlings. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you, thank you. We are the earth. For a very long time, I was thinking that it's just nature, but then I realized that we are also the earth and we are also nature. Yeah. So being an earthling is being in nature. So yeah.